and you want the CBN to lower interest rates. How do you plan doing this? Because, I mean, the CBN, they've talked about this several times, how, in fact, experts expect them to maintain the MPR at the same level this July. How do you plan to ensure that this happens?
Well, as you know, good morning. As you know, the CBN are fully independent of the Ministry of Finance, and the MPR independent economists the MPC, sorry, the Monetary Policy Committee, the independent economists that look at monetary policy, are indeed meeting today. My position has been that, look, this government is trying to spend its way out of trouble, and that spending, much of it, is being borrowed. So if you increase the interest rate, it increases our costs of debt service. So in an ideal world, I would need lower interest rates. I think business, when you're in a recession, typically you cut interest rates to stimulate activity. So we would love to see the MPC consider how they can help us lower interest rates, because we think in terms of business activity that will deliver greater results to Nigeria. And I do understand what they were trying to do, which was they're trying to manage inflation. But if you actually look at the structural nature of the inflation, it's unlikely to really respond to monetary policy initiatives. It's structural inflation that's caused largely by the pass-through of costs from the exchange rate movement. So I think there's a strong argument. I'm sure that debate is going on.
Most Nigerians, they still think that this whole thing, or talk about recession, doesn't really work around government and its officials. It looks like it's just within the ordinary people. Take, for instance, some have started talking about the entourage of the president going to the United Nations General Assembly. They think that it is unacceptable, and now that we are in a recession.
Well, I can speak personally to the United Nations General Assembly. I'm here today because a circular was sent to say, look, if you don't have essential meetings to do in the United Nations, don't go. And many ministers who were slated to do side events, and I'm one, have simply stayed behind. From what I hear, this is one of the smallest entourages Nigeria has taken. And indeed, ministers were told, normally ministers would be on ground in New York to greet the president when he arrives. That's the protocol. Ministers who are going were told, come in for your meeting only. Let's save the hotel cost. You don't need to sit in the hotel for 3 days if you don't have a meeting. I think this government is really very much focused on value for money at this time. I mean, I don't know the details, but I was in the planning meeting because I was actually meant to go until I got a circular letter to say, look, there's no need for ministers that don't have main meetings in the General Assembly to attend. And many of us are here in Nigeria for that reason.
We had a guest here one time who was talking about measures that could be taken to take us out of a recession. One of the things he talked about is easing of monetary policy. He says we should ease our monetary policy, but it looks like we're actually tightening instead of easing. Put that aside and then look at what the president is asking for. He's a man who has the entire nation on his shoulders and is looking for ways out, while the team is thinking this is another avenue. Why can't we let him have this part?
No, he can't have
while
it.
The CBN is also looking at how to ease it.
No. He can't have that power because he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. If you give him that power, it will be worse off. You know? He'll be worse off. Because one is that there are certain things that he has power to do. He can decide.
What does he have power to do in this kind of situation without the National Assembly looking over his shoulder and...
No, because you need it. Let me give you an example. In 2008, 2009, during the global financial crisis, which led to economic crisis, what the United Nations did was to set up a committee, which was headed by Joseph Stiglitz, to look at a global way of monitoring, because money has gone mobile. Okay? So you need a global kind of institution that will oversee and supervise continental, national central banks. And that's why you have the African central banks, European central banks, and all that being supervised. That the whole idea was to enforce more regulations to make sure that this kind of thing does not happen again. And that's what I expect to do. If there are laws, if there are things that could be amended to make sure that ease of doing business, because Nigeria is 169 out of 189.
I was going to say, let's bring it down and make it a little more specific.
Yeah.
Given our situation now, I mean, manufacturing sector is complaining, they're talking about the monetary and fiscal policies. What specifically do we need to do now to see how it could get us, at least on our way out, that we don't need the powers for?
I think the president was talking some time ago. He said that his government is very prudent, and that's why we've been able to save and all that. And the concept of saving is that through investment you save. You cannot say that you're being prudent when your economy and you're contracting, when you're supposed to be expanding. You have around expansionary policies. We need to knock down the interest rate so that companies can also borrow money at a reasonable rate, to be able to do that. I'm not even talking about inflation. But if you increase your production,
how do you knock down the interest rate?
No, from the rate it is now, about 14% or thereabouts.
Is it going to be by fiat or
no? It should be below. It should be below. It's what the fiscal side. I think the monetary side is overwhelming the physical instead of the other way around. I have not heard the finance ministry coming up with what the government exactly wants. What is their vision? What do they want? How do we want to get out of this? We need to expand production. We need to begin to export. But again...
But they've been talking about this.
But the policies are hindering all these things.
What kind of policies would you want to see?
Let's take, for instance, let's take interest rate, for instance, because interest rate has a way of influencing the entire economy. If you want to run an expansionary system, you need to knock down your interest rate. Okay? When countries are in recession, what they do is to reduce their interest rate, even sometimes to zero, so that companies can expand, jobs be created, and all that. You don't tighten when you're supposed to be spending. So that is one thing. You don't save money when people are hungry. We need to, the monies that they said that they're savings and they have recovered and all that, we need to put it back into the system. We need to begin to make policies that will really bring down. The one interesting part is the interest rate. Once you get it right, and then not even the exchange rate should be eased, because you can't run a system like that.
Elections held in 2016. Rivers, Bayelsa, Edo, and even Ondo states. Kogi State Governor was sworn in. Remember, that's after that election of 2015. He finally came on board in 2016. But his party, the APC, had its fair share of squabbles in the aisles from members. It wasn't long before it came out in the open. We had a few coming on the program trying to transcribe the handwriting on the wall. They say, all is not well in the APC. But not just the APC. The opposition, People's Democratic Party, had its own fair share of squabbles, wrangling, that actually many thought was going to tear the party apart. But the PDP is still very much standing. Who knows if 2017 or even 2019 will give them that unison, which is still very much absent in the year.
Members of the People's Democratic Party at a meeting to inaugurate the planning committee for the party's national convention. Prominent members of the party were in attendance, but significantly absent is the faction led by Senator Alimodu Sharif. While inaugurating the Convention Planning Committee, the chairman of the Caretaker Committee, Senator Ahmed Makarfi, emphasized the need for the party to be united.
The convention will be an all-inclusive one, and that offices to be contested for will be open to all and sundry. That doesn't mean people cannot come together to zone offices.
We must remind all of us that the party is supreme. The party is above all of us. The party is above personal interests, and therefore I call all of us to abide by this principle.
Speaking for the Convention Planning Committee, the Deputy Governor of Gombe State promised that the committee will deliver a credible process for the party.
It won't be long. We'll be having a chairman, God willing. At this moment, let us call him Mr. Man or Mr. Woman. When that takes place at the date that will be revealed, or which has already been revealed to you, our request is that we will all be behind this fellow, whether a man or a woman, in order to ensure that our party stays together and our party moves towards the success that we are all seeing, so that we will get our people back to victory.
The National Convention of the party, which is expected to midwife the emergence of a new leadership for the party, will hold on August 17, 2006 in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital.
Today, the judgment of the court clearly stated that everything Senator McCarthy did from the 21st of May till today is nullity, and it is illegal, and it will not stand void. That was the word, illegal, null, and void. That's what the word that the judge used. I want to assure you that this party will move to places. PDP will be again the party for Nigerians. PDP will take its leadership again. McCarthy and his group should just leave and join the party. But McCarthy is leave and join the party. But McCarthy is he was a governor, he's a member of the BOT, so come back and contribute your quota in the BOT of the party. Don't, please, all of you that believe that you must do the wrong thing, for once, put that wrong thing aside and come back and do the right thing. Nothing that McCarthy caretaker can do that will stand the test of time as long as the law is concerned. The law has made pronouncement.